Hello and welcome to what will be the 100th edition of Property Question Time with me, Jemma Forte. And of course that means we will have answered 600 of your property questions and we've still got loads more to go. So this is the show where we answer all your queries property related with a trio of industry experts. And today for this very special edition we have Paul Mahoney, the MD of Nova Financial Group. Hello. We also have Mary-Ann Bowring, who is the founding director of the Ringley Group. And last but not least, Stefano Lucatello, the senior partner of Kobalt Law International Property Lawyers. Right, we better kick off straight away because we have had these questions in that our viewers would like answered. So, Paul, I'm going to start with you, please. This person says, I'm unemployed due to sickness and I'm not a resident of the UK anymore. I've got two buy-to-let properties. One is worth 250,000 and another is worth 180,000 and the mortgage is 129,000. Is it possible to mortgage a buy-to-let paid house to repay another mortgage? So trying to shuffle money here.
There's a few points there. The first question would be why would they want to do that? So far as moving the mortgage from one to the other, it doesn't. They're still going to have that same level of mortgage, but just on a different property.
Yeah.
Obviously, the fact that they're no longer a UK resident and that they're not working are two very negative factors from a lender's perspective.
Right.
Not to say that there wouldn't be a lender that would lend to them, because they have the two properties, and those two properties, I assume, are generating income for them in the UK. Mm-hmm. So they would be generating income, they would be doing a tax return in the UK. Mm-hmm. So some lenders might consider it, but it would be difficult and probably slightly more expensive, less favourable terms. There's more to look into than the information that's been provided there, so far as saying whether it's possible or whether it's not possible.
Yeah.
But the key question there would be why and what benefit do they feel they're going to get from doing that?
Well, that's it. You see, I'm guessing from the situation that it's to sort of free up some more, disposable income.
Well, if they said they're looking to mortgage one to pay off the other,
yeah,
that what you said there makes sense. If they're looking to take more of a mortgage than what they already owe, and to release some cash,
yeah,
then the lenders would be asking what that cash is going to be used for.
Yeah, yeah.
For example, lenders are generally okay with you remortgaging a property to buy another.
Right.
Or,
So that's interesting actually, in terms of remortgaging, just because, I need to get my hands on some money, some of my capital, they're not so...
Well, some lenders won't even ask.
Okay.
Others do ask. They want to know the purpose of the use of the funds. Most won't be okay with you paying off... Excuse me. Most won't be okay with you paying off things like gambling debts and stuff like that. That's a big no-no. And others, if you say you're buying a property, they want to know everything about the property you're buying. So there's a very broad range of criteria out there between lenders.
Yeah.
And again, very much accentuates the reason to get advice from someone who knows that market. Because if that particular person were to approach someone like Barclays, for example, that particular lender might say no. Mm-hmm. And there might be 19 others that would say yes.
Yeah. And I think people always think, I've got this equity in my house and it's mine, and I'd like to get £50,000 of it because I could just do with it to do X, Y, and Z. And it's interesting that lenders don't think like that. They're like, well, you earn X, that's your mortgage, you've had your lot.
Yeah, well, it's the lender's money, so they've got the option whether to lend.
This is very true. This is very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and remembering that lenders are in the business of lending. That's how they actually make money as well.
And also, we also know that things have got maybe more cautious for good reason as well, so that people aren't overextending themselves. So
exactly right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that one. Right, Mary-Ann, on to you. This is your first question today. This person says, hello. I'm trying to decide what level of survey to get. I would probably have opted for a home buyer's one, but when looking through the attic, we noticed that one of the roof joists was badly cracked and damaged. The rest seemed fine. I've got no idea how big a concern this is, and apparently the home buyers survey won't even go into the attic, which seems like madness to me. Apparently they won't even move furniture, which seems even more incredible. I'm wondering what's to stop a vendor from disguising problems.
So there are 3 levels of survey, a mortgage valuation, a home buyer survey and a building survey. The home buyer survey is normally the type recommended for flats, and it's kind of the middle level. However, even the mortgage valuation says a head and shoulders inspection of the attic. A home buyer survey absolutely requires an inspection of the attic.
Okay.
And the only reason that you wouldn't inspect the attic is because it's not demised to the flat that you're having a look at. But that question says that the attic is part of it.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming the attic goes with the flat and access to the attic is from within the flat.
It certainly sounds like it, yes.
So they're absolutely entitled to have that inspected. However, if they're particularly concerned about something structural, whilst a building survey is not designed for flats, a building surveyor has a higher level of perhaps training and expertise, and you could get them to bespoke a survey for you for the item that you want to have investigated.
Okay, but would a home buyer surveyor still understand about roof joists?
Yeah, home buyer surveyors tend to be valuers who are clever valuers with a good concept of building tech.
Okay.
But a building surveyor won't be worried about evaluation at all.
Yeah.
They'll just be absolute experts in building tech and construction.
Okay.
To answer the second part of your question is, yes, it is true, surveyors don't go around moving other people's furniture. Not only because they could knock something and break something, but you know, if you can't go and move a bed and move a wardrobe, that's not reality.
Yeah.
But what surveyors are trained to do is follow the trail of suspicion. So, you know, if you find perhaps bouncy floorboards, then you're going to check for the span of the floorboards and check other things. Okay. If you find rising damp, you would know where to look for it.
Yeah.
So if it's on 3 walls, it's going to be on the 4th anyway.
Okay.
So it's a trail of suspicion. So you're looking for telltales that will lead you to follow that trail. Sometimes we have to recommend invasive extra inspections afterwards. Because if we did suspect that there was a wider problem, then we would need permission from the owner to have things moved in advance, ready to have perhaps a contractor open up the floorboards to look underneath. Okay. But that needs a special arrangement and permission and second inspection.
Yeah, or if there's a cupboard in a really weird place, you might think, why is that there?
Yes.
And there's a sort of
but
damp patch
then
behind it.
if the cupboard's in a weird place, perhaps to hide a crack, the crack should be showing outside, also in the room above and or the room below, and or the ceiling should be bowing. So a surveyor will be looking for lots of other telltale signs. So, but yes, there's a danger.
So in that instance, probably a home buyer's is going to be okay. If the attic is joined to their property, they should definitely inspect that. So question why they're not. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Right, Stefano. This person says, I'm looking to purchase a 50-year-old chateau in Marbella that has had an extension done and a pool installed many years ago, but that isn't reflected on the title deeds today. The owner is willing to get these title deeds updated at her cost, and we're talking about signing a contract with a 3-month period to closing that would give the owner time to get the title deeds updated to actual size. Is this feasible for the owner to do within a 3-month timescale? And how easy or difficult is it to get title deeds updated with previous changes done to the property in Marbella? Ooh.
The chateau in Marbella.
A French chateau in Marbella. It's interesting. I would say it's pretty chateau style.
Chateau style.
Well, turrets.
Having lived on the Costa for many years, as I was a solicitor in Gibraltar for many years, I can't think of any chateaus in the Marbella area. But anyway, for the sake of answering the question, let's answer it.
Chateau style, isn't it? It's 50
right,
years.
Okay.
Yeah.
The first thing to do is to look at the planning permissions of any property that you buy, whether you're buying in England or abroad. That's the starting point. It's not easy to change planning permissions and get retrospective planning permission in Spain. Okay. The first reason is that perhaps what works have been done might not be retrospectively possible to put right, as it were, to get the permission for. So you could actually be opening a can of worms by going back to the planning authority and saying, I want you to regularise what has been done 20, 30, 40 years ago. However, there is a time limit, because after a certain number of years, or before a certain period, then you can get away with these things. So let's say that you haven't got away with it and you have to regularise them. You'd have to get someone from the local ayuntamiento, the local authority, the planning authority, to come round and have a look at what's actually been done. They will then assess what's been done and they will tell you how to regularise it, if it is regularisable, or put it right. You then have to put in the paperwork. There will be some form of fee to pay, and there will also invariably be a penalty to pay, because the Ayuntamiento, like any other local authority, will be out to get its buck's worth, and it will want some money for putting it right. So the contract, going back to the contract should be what's called a conditional contract with a suspensive condition inside it, which is that says that unless all the permissions are obtained and unless all the planning permission is regularised, then this contract will not go any further and I will get my money back, because presumably he's paid some form, or is about to pay some form of deposit.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be exchanging, almost the equivalent of exchanging contracts, then saying, but I want a condition putting inside it because it's too late. So you need to do all that investigation. It may not be possible to do it in 3 months. I would actually put a long stop date of maybe 6 months.
Okay.
And
Does it sort of worry you when somebody's done an extension and put in a pool and not?
it's rife. In France and Italy.
Particularly in Spain?
Yes,
or
in France, Spain
Italy?
and Portugal, especially in the Marbella area,
Right.
where many years ago things like this were done.
Right.
And they were done under the nose of the local authorities, who would accept a payment. And it's very famous because the ex owner of Madrid Football Club was the mayor of Marbella when I was there,
Okay.
and it was rife.
Okay, and so then when you come to sell, it's just like, oh,
Well, you might not
This
be
is
able to
where
come
you
to
run
sell.
into
That's the point.
problems.
You might not be able to come to sell because any good buyer will have a
Yeah.
good lawyer with him who will investigate and say, hold on a minute,
which is exactly what's
sort it
happening
out
here.
unless we don't go any further.
Yeah, it's a bit short-sighted.
But very short-sighted.
Yeah, certainly wouldn't happen here, would it?
One would hope not.
On UK soil.
No.
Right, has anybody got a golden nugget for me? A nice quickie.
Okay, I'll go with one.
Excellent. Go on
It's
then.
to do with, we talked a lot about mortgages recently, and whether you go for a mortgage abroad, whether you go for a mortgage in England, in the United Kingdom, you should have your credit rating correct. Look through your locker of misdemeanors in the past and make sure that you've got everything right. Make sure you've got no county court judgments, make sure you've got no high court judgments, make sure that everything is in order, make sure that if you've got credit cards you're paying them up to date and that you've got a good track record. Because whether you're getting a mortgage in the United Kingdom or one abroad, the people who are lending will look at risk, and risk is even higher now than it ever was, and the ability to repay even at a higher rate is always analysed, and always make sure that you do that. The other point is that if you get a mortgage from a bank abroad, do not think that by handing back the keys, if you can't pay the mortgage, that is the end of the matter. The French, the Spanish, the Italian banks are now coming for English people who have just walked away from their debt and thought they've got away with it. So be careful.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. Excellent. That's it for part 1 of this edition of Property Question Time. Join us for more nuggets and fabulous information in part 2. Welcome back to the 100th edition of Property Question Time. So yes, that's a lot of questions. Slightly less panellists though, but Paul Mahoney, who is one of our experts today, you were actually there for the first ever recording, weren't you?
I was.
So you've made it to the 100th as well. Fantastic. Okay, so Paul, we're going to come to you for another question, please. And this person says, I was curious. Are there any advantages or disadvantages to adding my 2 buy-to-let properties into my personal pension? If it's advantageous, how do I go about it? I'm currently 45 years old and both buy-to-lets are mortgaged.
It's a good question, and you can do it if you find a pension provider who will allow it, a self-invested pension provider.
Okay.
However, they've made it unviable.
Oh, really? Okay.
So there was a lot of worry a few years back when they relaxed the pension rules, so far as people taking all their money out, driving it into buy-to-let property, and that pushing up property prices. So essentially, what they've done is, if you invest your self-invested pension into direct residential property, you pay 55% income tax.
Okay.
And you pay capital gains tax on top of that.
Right.
So it's not really a viable option, and therefore nobody really does it. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean you can't invest in other things.
Yeah.
You can invest in commercial property, and that isn't just a shop or an office. That can be purpose-built student accommodation.
Right.
It can be care homes. It can be hotel-style investments. So there's a range of different things that you can invest your pension into property.
Okay.
But it just needs to fit the rules.
Right.
You can also invest into property funds. So
Or sort of like ISA types.
well, so far as a managed investment type fund, the same way as they usually invest in shares, there's lots of property type funds out there as well. So
Okay.
often they're called REITs, so real estate investment trusts.
Okay.
So there's a range of things you can do with your pension to get exposure to property. So far as this particular question goes, and this gentleman moving his current properties into his pension, it's assuming they're residential is probably not a good idea. And even if they're commercial, it might be quite difficult to do it given that they have mortgages on them.
Yeah. And actually, I guess most people view their buy-to-let investments as a pension in a different kind of way, just that they'd come to sell it, wouldn't they, and use the...
That's right, and pensions aren't always the best way to provide for your retirement because it all comes down to the value, how good the investment is.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Go
the
up and
main
down.
benefit of pensions is the tax efficiency, but a common saying there is that you shouldn't let the tax tail wag the investment dog.
Right.
The investment and the returns are the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't invest just for tax reasons.
Yes.
Because when you do that, it doesn't work.
Okay, brilliant. Thank
Invest,
you
make
so
money,
much.
and then sort out the tax.
Yeah, so I'd say in this case, it's pretty clear that don't do that. It's not worth it.
Probably
Okay,
not worth it, no.
that's very interesting. Thank you. Right, Mary-Ann, this person says, our intended sale has been nothing but letdowns. What a nightmare. So the house had a survey that detected a damp problem. A quote from a builder was arranged, and in the end we had to negotiate the price down. A pain, but a problem that we can still manage. Our purchase is pretty much done, so we're waiting on our buyers, but I'm told the buyers' bank want another survey done. What would be the reasons for this?
Okay, so your sale is being frustrated because your buyer's got to have another survey.
That's correct.
So in short, that'll generally be because the buyer's survey is what's called a mortgage valuation. Mm-hmm. So that's for the benefit of the mortgage company. And there'll be certain things there that can be flagged up as needing extra reports.
Right.
Just because you've provided a damp estimate to the buyer doesn't mean that their mortgage company will accept that damp report. So they'll probably, following the mortgage valuation, want the buyer to instruct probably a building surveyor to go round and take a view on what's the cause of the damp, what's the remedy for the damp, how extensive is it, because in a damp problem timbers could be affected as well. And there could be potentially behind the walls a concealed problem of dry rot or wet rot. So whilst on the face of it, basically the buyer's mortgage company won't trust a quote from a builder.
Yeah.
They'll want a surveyor who, if something did go wrong or something was undiscovered that ought to have been discovered, somebody that they can sue and hold to account.
Yeah, so there's no comeback. I mean, it kind of makes sense to me. They're double checking, aren't they?
Yeah, they are really. I mean, the mortgage valuation is for the benefit of the lender, and the lender wants to tick all the boxes to feel safe.
Yeah.
He needs to tick another box. You need to bear with it
Yeah, and that's
and
just...
go on the journey.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, and that seems to make sense to me. Stefano, your question. This person says, I am an American non-resident of France and I want to buy an apartment for my daughter who is a legal resident. She's currently renting an apartment, so the new place would be for a vacation home. So she has a French bank account and I wanted to transfer the money to her for the purchase. I don't need to take out a mortgage and I thought this approach would be easier than buying it in my name and letting my daughter use it. I'd like to put both of our names on the deed, but I didn't know if this was possible since I'm not a legal resident. So are there any special legalities that I need to know of in regards to the money transfer to her bank account?
Well, the first thing to say is that France does not restrict who can buy in that country. Okay. So he can buy with his daughter. In fact, it would be beneficial for them to buy jointly and to own it almost as a joint tenant. There is almost an equivalent of joint tenancy in France, which is called ententine. Mm-hmm. And the ententine provides the same benefits as a joint tenancy does in England, so that the survivor, because of the right of survivorship, would then benefit, and one would hope that he would die first, and then so his share would automatically go to his daughter. By buying it jointly, it means that both of them can occupy the premises. It's beneficial for them to buy in this manner. The only thing that would have to be noted is the origin of the funds, because if he's providing the funds for the purposes of buying the property, then the notaire, the French legal man who would do the certification and the completion ceremony would want to be certain as to the origin of funds and that it wasn't some form of tax avoidance or evasion
Right,
or anti-money
okay.
laundering.
Okay.
So that is what I would do. As regards transfer of monies, he could gift the monies to his daughter. You can under French law gift, as you can under most countries, but being an American citizen, he would have to declare it to the IRS.
Mm-hmm.
Having gifted the money to the daughter, she can then, as a French resident, buy the property, and she can put it in joint names if she wishes to.
Okay, so is French law different to the UK?
Totally different.
Totally different, yeah.
France, Spain, Portugal, Italy all use a system called the Justinian Code, which is a Napoleonic code so many years later. And wherever Napoleon conquered, he left a body of law. It's totally different from our common law. It does, just because you are a property expert under English law does not at all mean that you will be a property expert and know the laws of the jurisdictions abroad.
Right, okay.
Beware.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, anybody got a little nugget for me?
Just a reminder for landlords, really.
Okay.
That the tenant fees bill has been out since late last year, and the government are proposing that tenants don't pay onward costs to get into a property. So that means the cost of the check-in inventory, that means the cost of referencing, that means the cost of contract admin fees. There's been a big petition going through the industry to try to get the government to change their mind, and ministers have said that no, they won't be changing their mind, and the timetable for this to become law is May 2018. So it's something that should go through quite quickly.
Yeah.
Big change for landlords. They'll need to absorb those costs or find more cost-effective ways of operating.
Or will they?
Ooh, dun dun dun.
There's a question about that, because whether the landlords absorb them or whether the agents absorb them.
Right.
Because agents have been, in my opinion, skimming for years. You know, the
Right.
fees that agents charge, especially in London, are very high. And there's lots of agents coming out with, very, very low fees now. So there's a bit of to and froing there as to whether it will be landlords that absorb them or agents that absorb them.
Yeah,
so
or split it or something.
We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, interesting. Again, it's just so sort of fast changing, this whole industry. To keep on top of it seems quite difficult. But there you go. But these people do, obviously, because they're experts. Right, thank you so much. That wraps up our 100th edition of Property Question Time. So I hope you've enjoyed it. And of course, huge thanks to my 3 experts. Stefano Lucatello. Again, I just love saying that name. And then we've got Mary-Ann Bowring and, of course, Paul Mahoney. So thank you very much to all of you. And if you'd like to get in touch with us here and put your questions to more experts, then please do. The email address is info@property-tv.co.uk, or please go and have a look at our website. Again, all the W's, property-tv.co.uk. My name's Jemma Forte. I'll see you soon.